Hello, and welcome to the Human Quotient. Reiterating that when the world all over is talking about AI, we at Antwalk believe that human capabilities will continue to matter for organizations as we move into the future. And that is where it is our endeavor to bring voices which talk about workforce capability, skill building from across the globe. And today we'll talk about a very specific topic, which is important for not just the HR and L&D personnel, but it is also very helpful for functional leaders who would be joining in. So I would request everybody to, if you have questions, please keep putting it in the chat as we go along. Today we'll talk about how do you bring a structure into your L&D efforts. We will talk about how the L&D landscape itself is changing in terms of people's expectation, organizational expectations, the skills around us evolving, and how doing a very scientific training need analysis or a learning need analysis can be very, very helpful in that regard. And to talk about that, I'm joined today by a very special guest, Vardha Pense. Vardha ma'am, very happy to have you on this conversation today.
I'm also glad to be here. It's a topic of my interest, so thank you so much, Sudhanshu, for inviting me.
And ma'am, you bring years of experience, having been into learning and development, both from a functional perspective, and now you are helping organizations shape up their learning and development culture, right? So let me start, by first saying, how do you see the talent landscape itself evolving? Now, how do you see the new people coming in, their expectations, how they the how do companies how are companies changing in terms of the talent that is coming in?
So, Sudhanshu, actually speaking, we are facing a big challenge where talent is concerned. At
Hmm.
one end, we have immense number of people available. Youngsters fresh out of college are not getting jobs or
Yeah.
even with experience because they are not ready in a certain sense for the industry. And since you wanted me to focus on the NBFC sector, I will give a little extra focus on the financial sector and the NBFC sector. So, at one level, the big challenge is availability of the talent uh, and the rightly skilled talent which is there. The other challenge in terms of the talent landscape is that technology has become very, very intrusive, right?
Yeah.
So it is impacting the way we work. So today, in the financial sector, on the asset side, the entire credit analysis or the credit processing of any mortgage is being done through technology.
Yeah.
And do we have a talent pool that is able to deal with this high level of technology intervention? You know, you can create the best softwares,
Yeah.
but finally people need to be able to use it. So when I look at the talent landscape for the NBFCs and the financial sector, one is the availability of the talent, which is skilled to be able to do the work,
Yeah.
right? The second is the talent pool being able to use technology to be able to do the work. And the third piece, which is there in the talent landscape, is the interest of the younger generation to be part of sales, be to become sales professionals.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants today to sit in office and work, and an NBFC's 80% of the team is
Yes.
sales. We survive on sales talent, and nobody wants to do the grunt work, the hard work of influencing, persuading people to take on the product. So, aspirationally, sales is also not something which is
Yeah.
preferred. So it's a big challenge,
Big
I,
challenge.
big challenge, and but there's huge, immense opportunity because
Yeah.
the NBFCs today is the need of the hour. Business is growing leaps and bounds in a certain sense. Uh, they are going into tier two, tier three, tier four cities.
Mhm.
So it's a contradiction in the sense here's a great business opportunity and
Yeah.
where's my talent, and I'm sure something good is going to come from this conflict.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like there are two contradictions which you spoke about. Say, first is that we are the world's largest human resource country. We have the largest population. We have the largest population graduating every year. The amount of people graduating from Indian colleges is bigger than the population of many countries, right?
Right.
Uh, and still there is this gap in terms of the abilities to do certain things, right? And then also what you're also talking about is aspirations. Lo- while I feel that again there is the second contradiction where I feel that sales is a life skill. Irrespective of whether I'm an entrepreneur or somebody else is a HR professional or somebody is a sales professional, sales skills are something that everybody should have. And it is basically a life skill that helps you at different junctions of life. And I feel that and I know that as a matter of fact, whether you look at the best entrepreneurs or politicians, people who are really good at selling things, they achieve the best in life. So
Perfect.
while we understand that people don't want to do the grunt work, but I know as a matter of fact that sales skills pay the most, right? And
You're
of course, and then
perfect, right.
right. And the third contradiction, you spoke about NBFCs. NBFCs are growing, and I feel that as India's purchasing power will go up, right now we are around $2,500 to $3,000. We want to become the third largest economy. By 2047, we have a roadmap. So our purchasing power will grow, and we will continue to buy stuff. Young people will buy things. So NBFCs will grow, as you rightly said, but do we have the right resources to drive that growth? Is what we are going to discuss. So it's very good context that you said, right? So my question to you is, no, the next question is, in terms of, let's talk from the L&D, right, perspective.
Right.
We have spent a lot of time. What are the key challenges, say L&D? We spoke about the talent landscape. If we talk specifically about L&D, what are the key challenges, say, that NBFCs face today?
So, I think NBFCs have to take a learning out of the IT sector. uh, about 15 to 20 years back, IT
Hmm.
sectors had set up learning academies, right?
Absolutely.
Infosys Academy, Wipro Academy, where they picked up talent and trained them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you look at it about 15 years back, that's when the IT company said, I don't want engineering graduate. I don't mind a BSc. I will train them up and I will build my talent pool. And
Absolutely.
I think somewhere in NBFCs, we will have to take a stand where we will need to build skills in people because they are not going to be readily available. And
Hmm.
we will have to train them on our product, on the credit, the product, the process, and get them trained to be readily available for us. So that's one piece which is about the academy and
Hmm.
creating a framework. The second element of it is NBFCs also need to get their current talent to be future ready,
Yeah.
right? And when you think about future readiness, I think there are three aspects, and I think we've been working from Vastu with all of you, with Antwerp. One element of it is in I don't know whether I should call it digital thinking or being comfortable with technology
Hmm.
and AI, but there is really a digital mindset which needs to be there
So
with
there
the
is data
talent.
itself, yeah, digital literacy
Yeah,
or mind.
digital literacy. It's not literacy. People know how to use it, but the mindset that where the data is going to come from, how am I going to use
Hmm.
it, and how do I use the AI, and what do I need to do with that is one element of it.
Yeah,
The second element is the aspect of the changing customer expectation, and therefore, how do I become more innovative? Look at the problems that are emerging and solve it in a more creative or a different thought process. Uh,
yeah,
the same way we solved all our problems will not work.
yeah.
And the third thing, which is becoming the need of the hour, is the empathy in leadership,
Mhm.
and whether it is with the employees or with the customers.
Yeah.
Um, so, NBFC leadership, in a certain sense, has been a little, I would say, patriarchal.
Mhm.
Which was, yes, I take care of you, but you will do as I say.
Mhm.
But everywhere we are facing the generation divide where the younger people have a view. They
Yeah,
have an expectation. They don't want to work 24 by 7. They don't want to work on a Saturday, Sunday, and your home loans are sold on Saturdays, Sundays, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
how do you balance these expectations and get the team to be committed to be able to drive?
Yeah,
I think, so at one level, we have a leadership which has to go through a change process,
yeah,
and we have a frontline team which needs their basic skills have to be built up. So I
yeah.
think the
So this academy concept that you brought around is very, very interesting, because very similar to this. I was having a conversation with my co-founder today, wherein at all organizations, and these are the couple of key that you talk about, sales academies which drive growth. At the same time, you need to have a digital academy which empowers or accelerates digital adoption. You spoke about
right,
leadership academy itself, because leadership itself at all levels needs to undergo transformation. I was sitting with a company wherein he was, that person was, I guess, he was a national head and of sales, and he was like, Sudhanshu, I have grown up in an atmosphere where my bosses would, drive it with carrot and stick. That was the only way it used to work. But now I've grown in that era where, we would be scared of our bosses and we would do things because there's a quarter and stuff. But kids these days, they come with a very different mindset, right? I know that the way I have run my organization itself needs to change. So there is a transformation across all levels, right? And that is where the next set of organizations who think of it, because growth is will be there. Say housing in India is, I think, a segment that will continue to grow for the next 20, 30 years. There might be cycles. Every
yeah,
sector has a cycle.
but
But
it will grow.
unlike other countries, we don't get generational wealth or houses coming from our parents, or say in my case, my parental house is in somewhere where I'm not using. And also the concept of a house ownership has changed. My parent got a house when they were in 50s. I got it in my 30s. There are people in my company who are in getting houses in 20s. People are
Right.
looking at it as an investment. There is loan again. So this entire area is great, and there will be some companies who will definitely go ahead and become really big. But to drive that growth, they need to look at people as that big lever. So this academic concept that you brought about is, really, really good. You spoke about some parts, right? That kids don't want, the new age employees don't want to do certain things. But if I look at from purely from a L&D perspective, right? Um, there are some L&D managers who come and say, especially when we talk about frontline, uh, you know, roles, they say that employees are disengaged, especially in the learning. So right, so and it affects the learning culture in those roles, in those sectors, right? So how can, for the L&D managers who are tuning in, how do I create a pull based learning culture, right? When you, what you spoke about is a learning culture throughout. There is a sales academy, there is a digital academy, there's a leadership academy. Everybody needs to learn and evolve. But how do I create a pull in this entire thing?
So I'm going to share a personal experience.
Okay.
I've been a mentor advisor at Vastu,
Yeah.
and I have over the years developed L&D strategy for various organizations at various levels. So when we started looking at the feet on street or the frontline L&D, whatever efforts we were making were really not succeeding, right?
Okay.
It was meeting with 25-30% participation, or people had to be literally forced to come into the classroom to do any assessment. We had to literally beg,
Yeah.
borrow, do damdati, as I said, to get them to do it.
Yeah.
And then, as I started interacting with people across the country, my one learning with the feet on street was I was thinking with English or Mumbai in my mind, right?
Yeah.
We were too corporatized in our training delivery. So local language communication makes a huge difference, right? You conduct anything. We've done skill assessment. We've done it in local language. We've seen a much better participation. We've done small bite-size learning modules. What we call micro, not extending beyond 15 minutes. And the
Mm.
interesting thing is the moment we've launched these bite-sized modules and in multiple languages, we've had people completing it within a day or two. Much better participation. They don't have the attention span of more than 30 minutes to
Yeah.
45 minutes. That was the other learning. The third learning, which I've had with an All India uh, in Vastu, when we've done it, even at the managerial level, when
Mhm.
we had the facilitator who was local, who did lot of exercises, and some of them have been your facilitators and the overall program outline,
Mhm.
and they did exercises and activities, right?
Okay.
Or they were case studies that had a better traction than anything else. So, in fact, when we've been launching future programs, they would know, is this the person who's coming to facilitate? Okay, she knows Hindi or she knows Tamil, and then they would come. So. Uh, at the regions, tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think the concept learning
Mhm.
doesn't work. Local language, lots of activities, lots of case studies, and then giving them a framework works. And the third thing is checklists. I think, they're able to deal with the checklist. So we need to have multiple avenues of learning, and we need to do it at multiple level in an integrated manner.
So so you spoke about talking in their language, talking,
Talking in their language,
uh,
yes.
reducing the overload of long, boring sessions, or this to make it very small, micro-sized learning. You also spoke about assessment and other things. The entire platform, even the instructor talking in their language. And you also spoke about being it a multi-pronged approach. It's not just I should only go in a class or learn from a video. I can possibly learn on the job if somebody is guiding me. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach that you are. You know,
And the last thing is, as L&D professionals, we need to be positive.
yeah.
Okay, I think what happens is we tend to be overtly responsible and take psychological accountability for if, let's say,
Yeah.
20% don't attend or 80% don't attend.
Yeah.
I keep telling the team here, let's look at the positive movement, session by session, module by module.
No, no,
And
I understand the empathy that there is, that I have seen programs where the L&D team, HR teams put in a lot of effort, get a nice place in a hotel and all of that is there, and the turnout is really bad, and you feel bad for the effort that you have put in. You get some blasting as well, that you put in organizational money getting all this arranged. People did not turn up, but if we are talking about all of this and looking at, because at the end of the day learning is continuous. If you make small changes in the approach, some of which you suggested, I'm very sure. And at the end of the day, there was one day, there was a conversation that was happening with one of my colleague, and he said that inherently people like to learn. And we feel that professionals are so busy that they don't learn, but we inherently as human beings are inquisitive. We like to learn, whether it is reading a book, a newspaper, watching a video. We are learning continuously, right? And
right,
uh, as you said, this is where the multimodal approach that you spoke about comes into the picture. We need to understand not just that, what that person, how will that person learn, but what that person wants to learn. Most of the time, possibly the kind of training programs we are making that person sit through does not add value to that person's job. It's not helpful for that person. And that is where I will move to the topic
so I
that of
stop
today's
here
discussion.
for a, yeah, Sudhanshu, I'm
Yes,
going to
please.
give you another input.
Yes.
Again, from experience here. So if we need 30 participants for a workshop, now we call 40 participants, right? Because 30 turn up.
Yeah, yeah.
10 people have some kind of problem. So,
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere I think this element of how do we improve participation, especially in physical classroom, is a very critical thing because the business is going to ask what is the return on investment. And learning is a little bit like marketing. You need to talk, get your stories in and talk about it and get people to tell their stories on learning.
Absolutely. So that is where we'll move to the topic that we have spoke about, is training need analysis. Now,
Mhm.
before we go about it, for people who are joining in and who doesn't understand, can you just break down what TNA is and why is it important for organizations?
Okay. So if you really look at training need analysis, uh, it's really about trying to understand uh, at an individual level what is it that the individual requires to play his role well. We
Mhm.
are assuming that there is a gap in the way he is performing, and therefore, if he is able to build his skills, he will be able to perform his role better. That's first level of training needs analysis. The second level of training needs analysis is if this is my hypot, what skills, competencies does he need to build or he needs to have to be able to grow in his career and to be able to succeed in his career. That's the second level of training need analysis that one talks about. And the
Mhm.
third is from an organizational perspective. We always have to think about if my organization needs to be future ready, what skills and competencies do my talent need? So when typically if you again look at it, performance management cycle, and next quarter is when most companies will go in through their performance management cycle. There is always the element of what is the gap and what is it that the individual can do to perform better, and
Mhm.
you identify what skill building exercises he or she needs. uh, uh, I think it's also important to start thinking about if this is my high pot and if he has to grow further in his career, what it is that is required. And the
Mhm.
third element, as I talked about, when you're doing your training need analysis, start thinking also from a point of view of, as an organization,
Mm.
what competencies or what areas do we need to develop to be future ready? Because skills at an individual level
Mm-hmm.
can be built up, but skills and competencies and behaviors at an organizational level is a long term
Absolutely.
journey.
And that is where a balance between uh, performance and aspiration, growth, all of that needs to be there. Say, organizations where, say, if your training calendar, or what you're going to, how your L&D budget and training calendar is going to look like in the next year, if it comes out of an outcome of a performance management cycle, what happens there is that there are two things that happen. One is that there is, of course, there is a recency bias that is there, and also the focus is a lot on current performance and the things
Right.
that we talk about. How do I want the organization to evolve, right? Say, for example, you're saying that what are my organizational needs? I might be doing, say, I'm in affordable housing where my ticket size is, say, 20 lakhs, but I want to move towards 50 lakh sizes, or I want to move to a newer segment which is on lap. I want the same set of people to possibly get, trained on multiple products or part the single. So all of that, that organizational direction in in building a calendar is very, very important, right? So that is where, doing a very scientific training needs analysis helps HR and L&D professional.
Okay, so Sudhanshu, I'll tell you what happens, right?
Yes.
Uh, there are, one can actually, one should ideally do training needs analysis in October, midterm, not link it up to performance.
That's a better, yeah.
You ask, yeah,
Can you
if you
elaborate more? This is interesting. So can you elaborate more about this?
so in what happens is, uh, if we were to look at a performance management cycle from April to March, right? In many companies, in month of October,
Mhm.
they look at your performance, which is a midterm review, but they
Mhm.
focus on your competencies or the behaviors that you need to demonstrate at the level that you belong to, or what the organization expects from you. And therefore they start focusing on the what, how you have to deliver rather than what you have to deliver. So the moment you move away from the what, like the sales target of 25s or 200 crores, you move away from that to the how of it, which is, you should have a great customer connect, you should be looking at the documentation process, you should look at how you are planned and organized, what is the consistency of your performance. You start looking at the how of it,
Yeah.
right, which we call the competencies. At that time, and then you start looking at the training needs analysis. The quality of it is not shadowed by the what, टारगेट अचीव हुआ कि नहीं हुआ. अगर
Yeah.
टारगेट अचीव हुआ है, then the how doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you ask me from a pure aspirational perspective, I wish we started looking at doing the training need analysis post a how assessment,
Hmm.
and where the employee would be also more open to discussion in terms of what he or she wants, and would benefit from his own, from the conversation that he has with the manager. He is not uh, threatened by the outcome of his performance, but he's knowing this is developmental.
This is interesting, and the reason why, because either way, say if you have done well, right, uh, then there could, in that euphoria of doing well, the gaps in your understanding also get masked. Or
Right,
the other way, if you have not done well and
right,
you are sitting in your performance appraisal, and there sometimes people ask you, what haven't you done well, the answer possibly will not be, no, it will not reflect correctly. But if
right,
you're having the discussion of what I need for my growth, what I need to do things differently, if it comes without that no sword on your neck, it possibly will give better results. So this is something that, that is one thing that you have worked with young folks, right? um,
right.
you said that young people coming in the organization, they look at work differently, right? You said that not a lot of people say look at joining, no, both it is like your banking is no more a cool job, right? So
Yeah,
which
banking is no longer meaning it's.
yeah,
I think in the 80s and 90s and up to 2000 it was
yes,
aspirational. Then
it
it
was
moved
aspiration.
on to IT, and today it is all startups.
All startups, right? So banking in sales, possibly not the coolest job to be, but we know, like, you can make great careers. And some of the best fintechs that we know, people start because unless until you know how things work, it is helpful. And in your experience of working with youngsters, everybody is aspirational growth, with a growth mindset. They want to say, I'm doing this today, but they don't want to wait till, one thing that we did a focus group discussion with 20 years old. One thing that came out, a lot of people said that I don't want to be in my 50s to reach a leadership position, which is the way people think, right? You wait till 30s and 40s, you work really hard. Now in the 50s, you become a leader. So a lot of youngster want to fast track their growth, and it's not wrong, it's totally fine, but when I do a learning need analysis, or when I plan a calendar for the young folks, is there a way I can bring the factor of aspiration in how I design programs for them?
So, Sudhanshu, when we were discussing earlier, not today, but earlier, I think one of the shift which has to happen in amongst the L&D professional is the acceptance that there are what is called, when we look at developing the L&D strategy, we have to also provide a basket of training programs which are aspirational to the employee, right? In the earlier L&D strategy, it used to be these are the programs, L&D people will nominate you for it, or your manager will nominate for you, and you will attend it, right? But today, you need to give them a basket where they will choose what they want also. So you have to create that push and pull. So your L&D strategy cannot be just where you're not. So you may self-nominate yourself. So today in the L&D strategy, you're not only looking at workshops or online courses. You're
Mm,
looking at certifications. You're looking at programs, which qualify you. So going beyond, let's just say, certification, and
mhm.
you could have employees choosing you, wanting to be part of that.
Yeah.
Meaning, when I now look at designing L&D strategy, you need to think from multiple perspectives, just not functional perspective or a level perspective, but also the talent may
Mhm.
want something which goes beyond what the organization is
Yeah. No, we were talking this
nominating them for.
very senior leaders of a very well-doing wealth management firms, and they said that, so that these guys are good enough, I don't know what to teach them now. So how is it that I plan and he was very clear saying that, unke liye training is not something that I can design. What I have to design for them is something that kind of moves them up, they feel that this is something that is worth pursuing, right? See, if that is where, he said that, a lot of people, they create very different, not learning modules, but say experiential modules, go taking leaders on a track, or multiple. And even at, this is not just at the senior level, but even at junior levels, I have people who are, say, HRs, who come to me and say that, so how should we not need to do a training for storytelling? Because, when I
Right.
talk to people, I need to sell my company. I need to tell them why this is a job worth pursuing. Because even for an HR, the role is reversed. It's not that you are recruiting somebody. That person is also evaluating whether I should join this or not. That person also has options, right? So there is a new age thinking of what skills should I add that will help me grow tomorrow as well, right? So we have skills like, people think about design thinking, they people think about storytelling skills, right? Data is something that a lot of people think about. Gen AI is a lot of things that, people come again, mujhe isme bhi.
appreciating art appreciating art and culture, right?
Yeah.
Especially those of us who are in their 40s and 50s, many
Hmm.
of them, would have studied, read management books, but have somewhere in the journey lost out on art and culture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And to if they are going to be part of the CXO level group, or they are
Hmm.
going to have global interactions, they are going to be making an impact.
Hmm.
Art and culture is another topic where people are being trained into what it is all about. Finally, at the CXO level, we do need leaders who think beyond just profitability, who think about sustainability,
Yeah.
right? So, sustainability, art, culture are again big topics which I'm seeing a lot of conversations happening around.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, so this is so, as an L&D manager, this is a time which is very, very exciting as well, right? Wherein uh, you can do things which can
Right.
go beyond conventional, that, these are the four mujhe, there are some compliance training, there are some communication training, do some teamwork and stuff like that, do product training, and you're done with it. You actually have an opportunity to make a difference, and you
You
can,
really have an opportunity. Yes.
right? So this is a time for, to for people to, really be excited that, and I feel something that, I and that is why this conversation is called the human quotient. What I really feel at the heart is that, going forward, everybody will have access to technology. That technology is becoming so ubiquitous and simple that, the Nvidia CEO, he was talking about that people don't need to learn coding, because possibly machines will be so evolved that they'll do coding themselves. However, these skills, people skills, organizations of tomorrow will have people who are, say, thinking out of the box, people who are innovative, people who take a lot of ownership in their work, and that is where HR can actually shape future of the organization, right? It is not, if from being a support function, you can be a deep enabler. If you say that I have taken my people from here and I've taken them here, wherein, I have given really good skill sets for them, that is contributing to the company. And when you talk about culture, this is the first thing you can say, that I have taken, or I have actively contributed in creating programs that have helped people in move in the right direction, and thus organization. So as you rightly said, it's a nice place for people to talk about. One thing that, we talk about is technology as well. And the last year, everybody was talking about AI, right? But AI was, we were taking our time understanding AI and stuff like that. But do you think that, how is there a way the technology and AI can help an HR professional or an L&D professional as well, not to be just ready for today but also for tomorrow? How do I, we spoke about future readiness, is there a way
Right. Right.
I can leverage
I,
technology?
I think technology and AI is going to be very, very helpful
Yes.
and support us in our skilling journey. So, I use four words related to skilling.
Okay.
One is skilling,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is my proficiency level. This is where I need to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So say, Excel skills, you have, certain level of proficiency. So
Yeah.
this is called skilling. The second level is upskilling. There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference between skilling and upskilling. In the sense, I know Excel, right? Let's say there is a new technology which comes in. Like I knew Lotus 123 when I was growing up, and then I had to pick up Excel skills.
Yeah.
So it is, in a certain sense, upskilling, but in the same journey.
That's a
Then
good.
there is reskilling, right? So if you
Mhm.
were using PowerPoint, now you have to use Canva. And Canva is a real element of reskilling. It's using new technology, or reskilling in terms of the product that you are doing, reskilling in terms of the way you are working. It's reskilling. It's a totally different this thing. And then there's a fourth element which is called future skilling, which is
Mhm.
not perhaps a career, skilling journey. This is going to come totally from a different, what should I, different space, different area. And I think for the L&D professionals, when they're looking at the L&D strategy, they have to look at all these four elements for different categories of uh, talent pool. And when you talked about technology and AI,
Mhm.
um, uh, recently we were experimenting with something which was about helping people develop product knowledge.
Yeah.
Right now, people don't, they think they know the product, and they know the product in and out, but when you do the skill assessment, you will find people getting not less than 40% or whatever. So how do we get it? So we tried with a chatbot,
Mhm.
which kept asking questions, and which increase the difficulty in the questioning level. It was an interesting experiment, because when the person went wrong and chatbot said, "Are you sure?" We wanted the chatbot to be gentle and sweet, and we didn't want him to say, "You are wrong."
Mhm.
Right? So
Mhm.
we said, "Are you sure that this is wrong? Do you want to consider your options?" There were 30% of the people who said, "No, I am right." And again, that person went and said, "Check, reflect." So we
Ah,
had three levels of gentle
yeah.
nudge to tell that person that you are on the wrong. So it was an interesting experiment. And I think, imagine, you're talking, we are having a conversation, and I'm going totally out of whack. And
Mm.
somebody says, "Vada, reflect on what you're saying. Do you think you're on the right track?" It will make me pause.
It will.
Yeah. And rather than saying so, I personally feel AI will perhaps help people to learn if we program it, we
Yeah.
design it well.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Look, and that is where we have. I'll just talk a little about uh, the initiatives that we have at Antwork, and we have had the privilege of working close to 100 organizations in India. And Vastu, we spoke about Vastu a couple of times. With you,
Yeah,
we have been involved in multiple initiatives. And the way so the way we look at capability building is the thing that we spoke about is HR has a very important task, and that task is to build organizational capability. Doing programs, training programs is just one way to do it. But at the end of the day, if you can say that, hey, I started a journey. It's everybody talks about legacy, right? CEOs talk about legacies. I took my organization at 10 billion, I took it to 50 billion and stuff like that. What is an HR's contribution to organization is, I have built capabilities that is going to serve us today and tomorrow. And that is where you need to be very scientific. That is where you need to be, take all the assistance that is available to you. And that is where we have built the business capability platform, which we call at Antwork. And believe it or not, we just made this thing that we will help organizations build academies. So when you started the conversation talking about academies, we are helping organizations build sales academies, customer success academies, technology academies, leadership academies, HR and finance academies, and all of that starts in a very scientific way. We have something called as success profiles, uh,
Hmm.
where we and say, for example, if I can very quickly in a 1 minute level, I'll just share my screen and show is that, when you say, when you look at any role, say for example, you could be a manager, you can be a first time manager, then what are the different, okay, ju- hopefully should, right. So say if you can be a, first time manager, and you can see, so there is some error, okay, so let me just stop sharing. And you can look at a role in 360-degree view. What are the kind of capabilities required to succeed in the role today? We are adding elements of how you can succeed in the role tomorrow. We have added the element of how Gen AI is impacting those skills as well. So, as you spoke about, I could be doing a great job as a credit analyst, but 6 months down the line, my system and my company invest in a RAM, software, and risk analysis is totally outsourced. Then there are areas that I need to reskill myself in, right? So we have built this entire platform where we have close to 25 different archetypes of assessments through which you can do a very scientific learning need analysis. So we have had the pleasure of working, experimenting, and innovating with 100 plus organizations. So when you look at our platform, you'll feel that it has been built by HRs for HRs. So one thing that we spoke about, and this we are towards the end of the conversation. My last question to you is, we have put that it is, how do you build, why 2025 will be important in terms of learning need analysis. And my question with that regard was, with the three factors in mind. One is the new set of people coming in in the company, uh, technology evolving, AI adding. And so there is, while we did not think of skills from that perspective in the beginning of the year, now is the time to reflect and think, how is my organizational capability going to look when we are towards the year end and when we plan for the next financial year. So my, ma'am, thank you so much. What are your parting thoughts, if for the HR and L&D managers, if you had to share a tip or your wisdom to, how should you look at building a organizational culture, what would your tips be?
So, one tip I would say is have a focus. Many time when we drive an L&D strategy, the business as well as the training need analysis we do comes up with multiple requirements and multiple needs. But it's extremely important to have a focus.
Hmm.
You may define that these are the five top themes for the year, and we are going to drive that. It's not that you don't drive the others, but you identify your top five themes, which will have the 80% impact, and drive that. And in that top five themes, please focus on future skilling
Hmm.
and reskilling. Because if what's going to help us in future is the future skilling, what's the skill which currently doesn't exist and we need to have, and the reskilling, because if we don't reskill our talent pool, then the growth is not going to happen, we will not be able to deliver. In terms of skilling, maybe at the frontline level, I think an academy works best. And building an academy and ensuring that you are doing the basics, which is more like an education. You're running a small school in a school or a college in a certain sense, will give you better retention of talent. And the other thing which business keeps talking about, and which many of us will say when business goes through a down, the first to hit is the L&D budget. So sometimes I do find that shift happening today, that business understand the criticality of L&D and believes that L&D will give it the advantage and the benefit that it requires. But focus. I think having a focus and driving something makes a huge impact.
Definitely. Thank you for those words, ma'am. We do believe, as we have repeatedly said throughout this conversation, that things are very exciting from a
Learning
L&D,
perspective.
how it is
Yes,
evolving. And it is a time, and the final thing that you spoke about, think of it like a small school, right? And it is a beautiful thing to say. And unfortunately we have had not the best people get into education. But once you get into a professional life, you might have been any kind of a student, but you need to be a good professional, and that is where HR and lending managers can really make difference to a person's life. There is a Chinese proverb about the fishing thing that we all know, right? But
right,
if HR and L&D do their jobs really well, it can have a profound impact on how careers shape up, and it will definitely have an impact on how organizations shape up, right? And that is where we have put our effort into helping companies build capabilities, academies across different capabilities. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It was absolute pleasure to have you on the conversation today. And for all those who have tuned in, I'm Sudhanshu. I'm the co-founder of Antwalk, and this is thank you so much for joining us today. And till the next time, we'll come back with another guest and talk about another pertinent topic. So thank you so much.
thank you, Sudhanshu, for having me. It was great talking to you. And yes, you did make me think and reflect on how L&D is changing over the last couple of years. And it is an exciting time. I think L&D professionals are going through a big challenge in terms of looking at how do they get their teams ready, their organization ready for future.
Talking to you always is the pleasure is mine. So every time I talk to you, it's always educating myself. So thank you so much. And
Thank
with and this is me signing off. Thank you so much for joining in.
you.